Okay, so we're going to talk about GCD and which is Grand Central Dispatch and handling queues. So, in a nutshell, Grand Central Dispatch is just handling or managing resources when tasks take place. You know, so everything is a task, and um, by and large, you're gonna have multiple types of queues, right? So there are basically three types of queues available, right? There's the main queue, there's the global queue, and there's a private queue. The main queue is what you would call a serial queue, which means that when you put tasks in there, they happen in sequential order, right? And one doesn't start until the previous one is finished. Global queue, they run concurrently, and I'll explain that too, because currently means you can have multiple tasks that run simultaneously, and one can start and finish before ones that follow it, right? They don't have to finish in the order that they came in. Um, a private queue can either be serial or concurrent, depending on how you on how you designate, and I'll show you how to do that. But more importantly, they all can be synchronous and asynchronous, meaning that the tasks can run um, synchronously, meaning tasks can run simultaneously, or the queue is blocked, completely blocked until, or if it's asynchronous, it's completely blocked until, if it's synchronous, the queue is blocked until the previous um, task is finished. Asynchronous means that it'll run, but they'll run simultaneously. And if this is not making a whole lot of sense, we'll go ahead and get into the examples, and I will show you what I'm talking about. So, one thing I want you to know is that you have to be very aware of the main queue. The main queue is for updating the UI, and if it is blocked, your app will stall. And I'll show you what that looks like, blocking of the main queue. So, but right now, let's go ahead and get into some basic examples of how this queue stuff works, right? So I'm going to create an extension on this. Hold on for a second. My mouse is killing me. Extension, view controller. So I can create these functions, and I'm going to put these functions into the view did load. I'm going to call them from the view did load. So, and another thing I'm going to be showing you is how to use escaping closures, right? So, yeah, let's get to it. So I'm going to create a function. Print on, excuse me, sync. So hopefully this is clear. Completion. So sometimes you will have escaping closures, and escaping closures necessary because there will be times you'll have to have a function, and this function will have, its lifespan will have to last longer than will have to last as long as it takes for the response from a remote server to take place. And that's what escaping closures do. And so I'm gonna show an example. I'm gonna show multiple examples. At escaping, right? Stop. Oh my God. I hate when that happens. Message is a type string. right? And yep, and that's the rest of the closure syntax right there. And so in this case, maybe we don't have uh we aren't making the API call or anything across a network, but we're going to use something to simulate a couple seconds waiting for something to finish, right? So I'm going to say we're going to call this completion. And if you're confused about using closures, I have uh, created a coursework that covers closures. So feel free to check that out. Give me a second. So I have this right here. So this will be called start immediately. I don't understand why my thing is not on there. It's actually pissing me off. Right? So give me a second. So now we're gonna say dispatch queue dot main dot async after sync after deadline right here. And I'm gonna do this for 3 seconds so I'm start from now plus 3 seconds. Okay. Which is much longer than it takes for all right, and we do that right there. And so I say completion. I'm running 3 seconds. I'm just gonna put this I'm running for 3 seconds and right there, and we're going to go ahead and do this one. Same thing, but except I'm gonna say I'm running for 6 seconds, right? I'm running for 3 more seconds, right? Okay, so we have 3 more seconds. Okay, and I'm going to say, Jesus, 6 seconds in all. Why is this in my way? No. Okay. All right. And so now I'm going to call this from my view did load. I'm going to say print on async after completion. Print my message. Excuse me. And so let's go ahead and replace that and we'll see what's showing right here. Start 3 seconds and then it waits 3 seconds more asynchronously. So as you can see, if this wasn't an escaping closure, um, it would not have waited. We would have got an error trying to get this to print out the information, right? Or I don't know. But when you do an API call, you will get an error. You will get a nil error. That's for daggone sure. So let's see what happened. Escaping closure. See, escaping closure captures non-escaping parameter. See. So, yeah. I mean, if you try to do it, let me take this out and just do it like this. There you go. And unnamed. I'm going to say string, right? And get rid of completion. And get rid of this. But again, it's yeah, it must be escaping in order for it to do this. But as you can see, dispatch q.main.async after. So it waits, right? And but here's the issue. This is on the main queue, right? So now let's I'm gonna get rid of this. Okay. And let's move on to another function where we're going to basically we're going to run two queues in parallel, and I'm going to show the difference between sync and async. Okay, so I'm going to say right, and of course, you know, escaping. This right here. And of course, this should say message, of course. So now, and of course, completion. I want to copy this right here. See. So now let's go ahead and do just one dispatch queue, right? Dispatch queue. So we have three, again, I told you there are three types of queues. There is the main queue, which is this dispatch queue.main. And there's the global queue, which we're about to use, dispatch queue.global. In this case, we're not going to put in a parameter, which means it's going to be default by default. I mean that's the name of the quality of service parameter. Let me go back. Let's go quality of service parameters. Q, right? So let's talk about these real quick, okay? So default is somewhere in the middle. Background is really like the lowest priority, okay? It's the absolute lowest priority. And you would use this for background things that are running way in the back, long processes that occur over the life of your app while it's running. That's what this is. Okay. Default is basically uh, next up is utility. Utility is a long running task but they're higher priority than background tasks. User initiated is to load content, like text content, right? Maybe like you might have a process running and then you want to load text from an email into a label or a text field, right? You do that on user initiated. User interactive is highly interactive stuff, like animations, something that you interact with, like a game, um, something that, and user the main queue is updating the main queue. Anything that we use to update the main queue. And the reason why we have dispatch queue.main is because a lot of our processes may run somewhere in the background, right? But to update the UI, we have to push those to the main queue. Can't run everything on the main queue because if we do, we will block the main queue and either cause poor performance or even a fatal error. So now that I've cleared that up, we have dispatch queue.global. This is a global queue. That means that its processes run concurrently, but global dot let's talk sync for now, okay? Sync, right? And I'm going to say completion, right? Call this pre-run, okay? And sleep 2 seconds, and we'll say completion. Okay, run inside the queue. That's what I'm saying. Run inside the QUEUE. Run inside the queue, right? And so, and then this completion, we just say runs outside the queue. Runs outside of the QUEUE, right? So we have one that runs inside the queue and one that runs outside the queue. And of course, there's going to be a pause for like 2 seconds. But when you run it asynchronously, I want you to see what happens. So I'm going to go up here. Let's say print run, PRI. Right, print. All right. Print run. There you go. And both of these inside the queue and outside the queue come out at the exact same time. Let's do this again. Synchronous. Start pre-run. Look. Pre-run. And then these two inside the queue and outside the queue stop. So this blocks it right here. Then once this is done, then everything else runs. Nothing else runs. Nothing, it blocks the queue, not just for this queue, dispatch queue, but wherever this queue runs on. And everything runs on a queue by default, right? We just haven't explicitly put it out there. But right here, synchronously, it's the queue is blocked. Now let me do async, right? So as you can see, runs outside the queue. Immediately, this ran pre-run and runs outside the queue ran at the same time. And then this, since these are on the same queue, runs inside the queue ran right behind it. Okay? So these two ran together. This and this ran together. Then the sleep happened. Then this ran behind it. Do it again. Pre-run. Let me just do this again so I can, just so we can see this. Start. Runs outside the queue. Starts first. Runs outside the queue. And pre-run. Okay. and then 2 seconds, then runs inside the queue. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to move on, and we will talk about downloading, making an API call using escaping closure, and how it can block the main queue and how you go around it. This is the main reason why we deal with GCD dispatch queues and what have you, because we need to pull down information from an API call, do it on a lower priority, um, and then quality of service, and then once it's finished, put the output back on the main queue. So on to the next.